Hey guys, Alchemist here. So I just wanted to start by apologizing for not getting a YouTube video up last week. These past couple of weeks have been extremely busy for me. It has been quite surreal though. So last Friday, the 19th of August, was my last day at my job, and I am now officially a full-time trader and full-time Forex mentor. And that's something that I've been working towards for honestly as far as long as I can remember. So to be able to actually now be in the position where I can leave work and do this full time, it does feel quite amazing. It's been a lot of hard work, and I hope that I can now continue to give you guys and all the members my undivided attention, which I will be doing, and making sure that everyone can sort of succeed. And if it is your goal as well to be able to leave your job and be a full-time trader, then I will do everything in my power to assist you as well. So for all the people who are on the early bird 25, so now the course is going to be going live as of Thursday, the 1st of September. So please mark that on your calendar. For everyone who has been on the early bird 25 and is receiving the discounted offer, the price on the website will be the new price, which is for the early bird 50. However, for all you early bird 25 members, I will be emailing you all a invoice for the cheaper amount. So please make sure that you check your emails. Once you have settled that invoice, you'll get instant access into the course, and you will also get access into the Discord, as well as the link to book in your first one-on-one session with me. So please make sure that you're keeping an eye on your inbox, as a lot of members are telling me that my emails have been going to their junk mail. So with today's video, we're going to do an outlook on AU, EU, GU, and US30. With my YouTube going forward, there's not going to be as much content on here, as I have to respect the members and make sure that I give my undivided attention to them, but I will still be uploading at least once a week, mostly outlooks. I will be chucking in some educational content here and there. It just won't be as often as I have been doing it. And I'm not going to be giving away as much free source, unfortunately, just because I do have to respect that the members have now paid for that information. So let's get into today's outlook. So we'll start off on AU. And we can see that the weekly is still going to be playing within the range that we've been within for the past couple of weeks. So this here is the demand. And up here is the supply. We got very, very close to tapping this, but we didn't actually come all the way in. As you can see, it didn't quite mitigate it perfectly. And now if we jump down to the daily break of structure is still this one here. And the daily low is here. You can see we haven't actually been able to close below this yet. It was a bit surprising the other day. On a couple of brokers there was a close below, but then on others there weren't, and it's never actually been the case for me where it's been this significantly different between the brokers. So I'm not 100% sure what's going on there, but we're going to run with this, as this has been the scenario that we've been playing for the last couple of weeks, and this is also the broker that I personally use. So there would be the daily low, and up here is going to be our daily high. With mapping out this structure as well, guys, for all the members, you guys have already seen it now, but there's going to be flowcharts given to each member, which will outline exactly where and how to map structure on the daily, on the 4-hour, and on the 15-minute. And I've made it in such a mechanical way that you're never really going to have to not going to really have to think too much. You're going to be able to identify it quite simply by knowing exactly where to look, how many pips to look for, and then how to follow them along to current price action where it's trading now. So it's going to take a lot of the guesswork out of it for you. It's going to make sure that each one of your markups is going to be systematic and completed in the same way. And that way we can make sure that we're getting consistent results as well. So on the daily, that's all we need to know. Go down to the 4-hour. And on the 4-hour, we actually have the same structure points as well, because you can see here we didn't actually get a close below on the 4-hour either. Therefore, this daily low becomes our daily and 4-hour low. This daily boss becomes our daily plus 4-hour boss. And the daily high also becomes our 4-hour high. So our 4-hour range is from here, this low to this high. We can see in premium we have this range here. I was expecting this smaller POI to be tapped, but it was very close. However, we've come into the larger range from here to here, which is interacted with this whole demand range to the left as well. Okay, so the number one thing we want to be looking for is interaction between supply and demand. And why that's the case will be explained in thorough in the course. You can even see down here, we had some interaction here. This was the extreme of the leg. There was a nice short in there. And prices come into here. This was on Friday. We had the Powell speech, which has pushed price aggressively down. A lot of this was liquidity being generated for this push. So once we tapped into here and got the liquidity that we required, we are now going to be targeting this daily low, I believe. There is a spot here, these buy to sell wicks. And if we go up to the daily as well, actually, we have this whole range, which I believe is the next destination for AU. And this here, these buy to sell wicks interacted with this supply. Why was this supply? Well, because it set in a lower low. Obviously here it's just a wick break, but on the 4 hour there was a close. So that would have been a boss at the time. This would have therefore, that would have solidified this as a supply zone. Price interacted with the supply zone, absorbed all the orders and broke up anyway. So this is really where, once we've tapped into this weekly demand, the bullish intentions were set. So we want to be coming back to this zone because there's still going to be quite a lot of liquidity resting within here. Go down to the 4 hour again. So we know this is most likely going to be our target. We can also see that all of this is now going to become liquidity. For price to tap into and pull away. We are going to be expecting some sort of pullback once we liquidate this low. So once we come past this low here and hopefully tap into this, we are going to be expecting a pullback. Now, how large of a pullback that's going to be is yet to be seen. It could just be a minor pullback. We can see here there's been some buy to sell wicks developed. So we could even just pull back into here, have 15-minute realigned and then continue lower. Or ideally we'd want to fall into here, and then we'd have a pullback all the way up into this 4 hour POI, which is very nicely formed, swept the liquidity above all these highs and tapped into the 4 hour supply in premium. So this is the ideal place to be taking shorts. If we do come all the way back up here and then we have 15-minute structure turning bearish, if we also get 15-minute order flow bearish, that would be amazing. But then we don't have to wait for the order flow in this scenario. And that's another one of the flowcharts that the members have received, and there's quite a few more coming as well, as to if the 4 hour is bullish, what sort of structure and order flow combinations do we need to see before entering, and where our exact targets will be as well. So if we do come up here and we have that 15-minute structure realigned, we could be taking those shorts first to the low here. This isn't actually currently the low. It's obviously wherever price is going to stop, interact with something in here and give us a pullback. So we'd be able to take off the majority of our trade there, but we could also hold a runner in this scenario if you did want to swing a little bit, maybe into this lower POI or even lower than that too, because we can see that this whole daily leg now becomes targeted. Just depends on how you like to trade as well. So they're my intentions for the 4 hour. Let's just mark out this POI as well. And mark that this was a sweep. And let's have a look at the 15-minute. The 15-minute is currently bearish once this low failed. So therefore that's our 15-minute breaker structure. This up here is our 15-minute high. And we need a pullback of 22 pips, which we haven't yet gotten anywhere in this leg. So we can't actually identify where our 15-minute low is going to be. We can see that currently price is coming to interact with this level, which will be a catalyst for a pullback. And below here as well, you can see that this was sort of like a demand chain building up. Which has also formed liquidity below. So, and how this would have looked would have been like, from here to here to here, And then here we've actually had that demand chain fail. Okay, so this is again where we can see that supply is currently in control. We can see that from the higher time frame narrative. I mean, we didn't exactly tap that refined 4-hour POI, but we did come into the 4-hour supply range, which was in premium of the 4-hour leg. We did also have the news to help us push down, but all of this was liquidity generation to be able to tap into here, grab all the orders and fall. And ideally, the next sort of target, or the next point of liquidity, will be below here. So price will be magnetized to this low, as it's going to want to liquidate all the orders that are going to be resting below here. So a lot of people are going to have their stop losses below these lows. People that have entered buyers here, they're about to be liquidated. People who have entered buyers here, they'll be liquidated too. And they're going to be tapping into this larger demand zone below. And at that point, we're just going to need to see prices intentions, whether we are going to have a change character and then push back up for as a pullback to be able to let us have a 15-minute continuation short, or whether we need to pull all the way back up to this 4-hour POI. So that's yet to be seen. I will be monitoring this very closely. Of course, all the members are getting daily outlooks in the Discord, and there are currently 11 spots left on the early bird 50. So if you are interested, there is a link below, and after those spots are taken, prices will be going up again. So that's all I wanted to cover for AU. Let's have a look at the next pair. So now let's have a look at EU, and just like with every other pair, our main objective is to start off on the weekly and just to identify our current demand and supply level that we're trading within. So if we look at this current week here, the one that's just closed, we want to know what we're actually coming into at the moment. So we can just drop a horizontal line and drag across to the left. It has been some time since EU's been this low, but there's usually something that we're tapping into at this point. And yep, so we can see here we have this POI, which is a really important POI, as well as what we can see here is this would have been supply, this whole candle up here. Obviously this is the weekly, we would be able to refine it down on the daily. So this would have been supply once we had this as a lower low. Obviously this is a week, but again, like I said, on the daily, there would have been a close here. Prices then come into supply, which at the time, if supply was to remain holding, we would have seen a lower low, but that hasn't occurred. Instead, what's happened is we've swept the liquidity below here, and we've actually had a break of structure to the upside. So this was an important place in time at that time and at this place, which was all the way back in 2002. And we saw a lot of bullish injection come from here. So if we drag this zone out to the right, we can see that this is actually where price is currently coming into at the moment. And then in terms of supply, well, we have this candle above here, which has put in a low lower than this low. Again, it is a wick on the weekly. However, on the daily, there was a close. So this is the supply that we were trading within, and this is the demand. That's all we need to do on the weekly time frame. And let's go down to the daily. So on the daily, we need to identify the most recent daily break of structure that led us into this weekly demand. Now, for all the members in the group, they have received flowcharts as to exactly how to do this, how to calculate it, how many pips are required, and everything like that. I'm obviously not going to go through all of that here in today's video, but what we can see is it would have been this daily break of structure here, leaving this up here as our daily high. And once we had this pullback of 191 pips, which is quite significant, we can therefore confirm that this is our daily low. So we know that this is our daily range that we were trading within. We can obviously spot there's a couple of important POIs, but on the daily, I don't mark out any POIs. I just start doing that from the 4-hour. So let's jump down to the 4-hour. And again, with the 4-hour, we need to identify a different form of structure. There is different rules for the 4-hour, different rules for the daily, and different rules for the 15-minute. And for the 4-hour structure, it's actually this point here. Oops, sorry. This was our 4-hour break of structure. Oops, sorry, not 4-hour high. This is 4-hour boss. And we can see that this here, therefore, should be a protected high, as it formed a lower low, lower than this low, which at the time was the daily low until it got broken. So this was our 4-hour high. And the daily low becomes our 4-hour low as well. So we can just go daily plus 4H low. Perfect. And then our range. So if we drop a premium and discount for the 4-hour is here. Okay, so a couple of things to notice. We've already come back into premium of the 4-hour range. And let's try to form some POIs as to what this is reacting off of, where we could have seen price react. Of course, we've already had the reaction now. This was during Friday when we had the Powell speech. But let's have a look here. So we can see this zone, which is exactly where price tapped into here. And we also have this zone, which we can see we never actually got a close above. It was just a sweep. Now, with these zones, it's important as to where they're situated. It's important that it led to a break of structure on a lower time frame. But personally, the most important thing for me is to see that there was some sort of interaction between supply and demand at these levels. So let's just drop a couple of horizontal bars here, and let's just see if we can make sense of why price stalled here. Okay, so if you look at this, we have this POI. Which came into this supply. And why is this supply? Because at the time it led to a break of structure. Yeah. And what price has done is it's interacted with this supply. It's absorbed all the orders, pushed down. However, if supply was to continue holding at this point, what we would have seen is a lower low. However, that's not what occurred. Instead, what happened was price absorbed all the orders sitting within here, but there were more bullish orders or buy orders than sell orders. So there was a slight pullback here in this week, which on the 15-minute would have been a significant pullback, and then we broke above. So this actually would have been a break of structure at the time. And why this therefore makes this zone important is that we can see all of this as inducement being built above the zone. And if price was to remain bullish, once we've interacted with this zone that we were just looking at, we would have seen higher pricing. But instead we didn't. We saw a continuation short. And so this blue candle, which we've highlighted here, is actually the place in the market where it turned from being a demand market into a supply market. And that is exactly why price has therefore reached for these orders, liquidated, and then is now continuing short. So this is a very important POI. And this one here, yeah, we can see the exact same thing as the one above, just on a smaller scale. And that's why as well the pullback wasn't as significant. Get rid of this. You can see that this would have come into something in this week, which on the lower time frame would have been supply causing another minor break of structure. This zone also saw liquidity. Okay, and then when prices come in, it's had a slight pullback because it absorbed a lot of orders that were still resting within there, but essentially it was still a supply market as we saw lower pricing. So looking at this, I personally believe that EU has completed its 4-hour pullback and that we can continue to see lower pricing from here. These as well, these lows here, they can be liquidity for price to target. And then if we have a look here, this is sort of like a demand range, sorry, a demand chain building. And that's all we need to do on the 4-hour. So let's have a look at how the 15-minute is developing. Okay. There's a lot of choppy action, a lot of choppy price action here, but making sense of this would have been the most recent 15-minute breaker structure. Again, if you're not sure why, it would be in the flowcharts and everything that the members have received. So once you join, you'll be able to understand exactly why I chose that point out of any other internal high. And this would have been therefore the 15-minute low, and this was the 15-minute high. Just drag this across. Beautiful. Now, in terms of premium and discount on the 15-minute, we can see prices pushed up. It's already very far back down into discount. And looking at this, the 15-minute is currently bullish, but we need to ask ourselves, why is the 15-minute bullish? Okay, if we have the daily and the 4-hour both as bearish, and the 15-minute is misaligned, meaning it's against the higher time frame trend, it's usually to facilitate a pullback into a better priced zone for price to therefore continue short again, or not necessarily short. If it was the other way around, it would be to continue long, but it's to fulfill that higher time frame pullback. So looking at this, let's just mark out some zones on the 15-minute. This is really the only one left that price hasn't liquidated or closed below. You can see even here we had a slight pullback in this week. So price could come back to test this level. Again, seeing that interaction between supply and demand is the number one most important thing for me personally. So framing this to actually take a trade, again, this is just a outlook, and we'll need to see how price develops each and every day, especially with the market open on Monday. So don't go off and execute exactly like this until you can see further confirmations. But if this low was to fail, therefore having the 15-minute turn bearish, as well as the 4-hour being bearish and the daily being bearish, and then we can see if we see something like this where we pull up back into this zone, if there's a sweep of liquidity here, or ideally into a zone which is better priced, being this one here, which has had interaction, led to a minor break of structure and swept liquidity. And then personally, given that we are so low in the 4-hour leg, I'd want to also see 15-minute order flow be aligned with 15-minute structure. Now again, the members will all receive exact instructions as to how to do this. But yeah, that's all I'm going to give out on YouTube today. But I would wait for 15-minute order flow at this point to also be aligned with 15-minute structure. And then we can start to target these lows, because this low is a targeted low, as the high it put in failed to be a higher high than the previous 4-hour string structure. So that's what I'd be looking for. If price does hold here and push up into this zone, again, once we have 15-minute realignment, we could potentially look to take shorts from there. We would just have different targets. We wouldn't be targeting all the way down here based on a certain specific rules that I've set for the guys in the community. So let's have a look at GU. So looking at GU, we're again, of course, starting off on the weekly. So let's have a look at what we're currently tapping into here. So again, it is this whole large pivot demand which has pushed us up. There's not anything specific on the weekly here. We can sort of just either identify this as the whole range, or what I like to do is to just come back to this zone, and let's have a look on the daily to see if there was something significant on the daily. So if we're currently here, yeah, so we can see these buy to sell wicks, which would have had interaction with supply up in this large wick here. It's absorbed the orders, just as we saw in EU, pushed down and then broken above. However, this supply isn't as significant as the one that we saw on EU, because it didn't actually set a lower low at the time. So it's again just means it wasn't a significant point of supply. However, on the lower time frames, say for example on the 4-hour, this wick would have created a lower low. So it is still important to note that it's just not, it doesn't hold as much weight, which also therefore means when price returns to this zone, which is the demand zone it's currently created, it's got less of a chance of it holding too, because there won't be as many orders resting within there. So that is the demand on the, we've refined it on the daily, but that was our weekly demand. So let's go back up to the weekly to identify our weekly supply. The weekly supply would be this candle, which was actually setting a lower low here. Okay, so that would be a break of structure, but we don't mark out breaks of structure on the weekly, and we need to stay systematic in everything we do. So we can remove that, but that's just to illustrate why this is an important supply zone, because it was actually successful in putting in a lower low. So that's all we need to do on the weekly. Let's have a look at the daily time frame. So on the daily, we need to identify the daily break of structure, which is this one here. Again, you'll be able to spot these just as quick once you've gone through all the course content. And then the daily high. And depending on how large of a pullback this is, yeah, that's quite significant. We can say that this here is our daily low, which you can see price is very close to at the moment. So at the time, or currently even, this is our daily range, but we don't use premium discount all the way up on the daily. That's just to let you know. And then we'll go back down, go down to the 4-hour. On the 4-hour, we need to identify the break of structure that led to the daily break of structure, which is this one here. Got to clean these lines up. I have a serious case of OCD with my trading view lines. And then this here would be our 4-hour high. And our daily low is also our 4-hour low. So quite similar to actually how EU is currently looking. Now on here, let's identify our 4-hour range, which is this to this. With GU, we haven't actually come all the way back up into premium yet, But it's important to also note that price doesn't have to come all the way back up to premium. I think a lot of people miss a lot of trading opportunities because they expect markets to perform perfectly each and every time, and the reality of it is they just don't. And so don't wait for specific, obviously when you have a set of rules, you have to stick to those rules, but the rules in and of themselves need to have a little bit of fluidity with things like this, because if we're always just going to wait for that perfect moment, you can, if that's what your trading style is, it just means that you need to accept that your trading frequencies will be quite lower than others. So if you're happy to just wait for the bangers and the ones that are, are going to work out really well, just maybe stay off Instagram so you don't see people making 100R trades every week, which I don't really think they are either. But anyway, I digress. Let's get back to analyzing these 4-hour structure. So you can see this here is currently what price is tapping into. Now, is this an important zone? Well, did it have any interaction? Yes. So we can see this inside bar would have been a point of supply, as it caused this boss, and then price has interacted with it here. And this is where supply took over and set in a lower low. So price has come back into this zone and looks to be very close to setting another lower low here. That's yet to be seen, but we'll see on Monday and Tuesday whether price will attack these lows or if we need to liquidate a bit higher up into premium of the 4-hour leg. In the 4-hour leg, we also have, so if we see this here, and the interaction there would be this, which also would have swept the liquidity above all of these highs. This is likely to be a zone which in the future price might come to, and then we could potentially be taking shorts from here. I don't think that before we break this low, price will have enough liquidity to come all the way back up here before breaking. However, what is a more likely scenario is that price will liquidate first, which then will provide us a pullback, at which point we'll need to see whether we will return bullish to come higher up into this region to then go short again, because we can see that the overall narrative of price is short, or if price will go lower, give a slight pullback and then just continue short straight away once we've made a new range. Okay, so there are a couple of things to keep in mind. So are there any other POIs here? Well, we can mark out the extreme. The extreme is always valid, but given the reaction that we've had below this one here, how significant that was, I'm not expecting price to mitigate all the way back up to the extreme, at least not now. Maybe after this low has been liquidated and we see an influx of orders, we could potentially see higher prices, but before this low going, I don't think that this high will be targeted at all. So let's have a look at the 15-minute. So this would have been the 15-minute breaker structure. Okay, therefore this would have been the 15-minute low, but when it fails here, this would have been the 15-minute breaker structure. So we can get rid of this. This would have been our 15-minute high. And we can't yet identify our 15-minute low given that we haven't had a significant pullback, but given this pullback here was quite large, I'm actually happy to move our 15-minute breaker structure to this point here. Now, if you haven't seen my market structure video as to why I'm following the lows like this, I will link it above here in the corner. So please do go ahead and watch that, because it will clear up a lot of questions you might have currently. So that will be the 15-minute high. That's the 15-minute breaker structure. We don't yet have a significant enough pullback for me to identify where our 15-minute low is. So we can just sort of assume that if it's going to come into something onto here, let's have a look. We have this extreme, which is just going to be a catalyst for a pullback, which is what price is currently interacting with. We'll most likely see a 15-minute low here, price accumulate, and then attack the low. I'm just going to get rid of this just because we don't actually know exactly where our 15-minute low can be. And even with premium and discount, it's not going to really help us because we don't know where to set our low. We can just sort of assume that all of these highs here, these are all very weak highs in how they're formed. So there is going to be a lot of liquidity resting above here. We could potentially see further dip, a liquidation of these lows, sorry, these highs here. And then ideally we have a very nicely formed POI here, which we could therefore wait for a 15-minute order flow realignment before taking out the daily low. And this POI here, it has had interaction with this demand zone. And it's also the POI that actually led to this 15-minute breakout structure. So ideally, this is where we would be taking continuation shorts. We can see that daily is bearish, 4 hours bearish, and the 15-minute is bearish. I'd wait to see the 15-minute low be confirmed. With GU, because it does move quite a lot more than AU. On AU, I use 22 pips for a pullback to confirm the low. Maybe on GU, we could use 30. There is a specific way that I've also formulated as to how to exactly work that out. So once you join the course, if you do want to be trading a specific pair, which isn't AU, and you want to have your system as mechanical and methodological, if that's a word, as I have created mine with AU, then I can show you as to how to calculate those pip pullbacks for yourself as well. So essentially, I'd be waiting for the 15-minute low to be formed, a pullback, tap into this zone, and then we can take shorts to take out this daily range. Perfect. So let's have a look at US30. So let's have a look at US30. And of course, we're on the weekly time frame here again. And we want to sort of identify the weekly range that price is currently trading within. So if we look here, we can look to the left and see what we've interacted with. We've got this POI, which was fully engulfed and led to a breaker structure at the time. This is what has occurred. This is what has allowed price to push up to this point here. This would have been a valid supply at the time as it set in a lower low here. So I'll just explain which one I'm talking about here. So this here set in a lower low. However, then this was broken. So we want to look at the higher supply, which price is now rejecting from. And we can see if this is coming into here. It's this one here. Which if we look to the left has also had interaction. Again, this is on the weekly, but price is very fractal, so the same concepts apply. This would have been demand as it pushed up and made a higher high, higher than this one here. And then price has come back into that demand, absorbed the orders, had a liquidity sweep to the upside, and then has made this demand fail. This would have been a sweep. And therefore this is the current supply and this is the current demand, but we don't need to be marking these ones up here. All we need on the weekly is our demand zone and our supply zone. So let's go down to the daily. And on the daily, we need to identify the daily breakup structure. So at the time, it would have been this, which was the daily breakup structure, which pushed us up into that supply. So therefore, at the time, this would have been our daily low. And we can see currently that's just been taken. So we can see that this is our new daily breakup structure. We can remove this drawing. This is our daily high. And we don't know our daily low up and until we get a pullback of X amount of pips. This has all been given to the members so they know exactly what to be looking for. But if we look to the left, we can see this range, which price is currently about to tap into. We can expect some sort of pullback from here. We also have interaction here. And then we have this wick, or this whole candle. Which we could pull, this would be a catalyst for a pullback. We can see potentially price will interact here. This is also going to be a catalyst for a pullback. And whether that's going to come back up into this POI to continue short, maybe into here, then we can see some more price developing. But I do believe that this low should also go as it was not successful in setting a higher high than the string structure at the time. So we can get rid of this. We can mark this as a CBB. And we cannot mark our daily low just because we haven't had a pullback yet. So we'll go down to the 4-hour time frame. And the 4-hour boss would be this one here. Making this, of course, our 4-hour high. And similarly with the daily, we can't mark our 4-hour low just because we haven't yet had that pullback. Potentially we can see this as a refined zone on the 4-hour, which is where currently we're tapping into. We could potentially see a pullback here on Monday or Tuesday, or this POI lower. Both of these are quite good because they have had interaction. Again, this isn't a supply zone necessarily because it didn't actually set a lower low. However, it did still have interaction here. And this would have also had interaction with this, or the larger buy to sell. Okay. So just always have a look and to try to identify that interaction piece, because that honestly, even if that's all you take away from my channel, and even if you're not subscribed or you don't join the course or anything, one thing I want to give you guys is just look to the left and try to find interaction. It happens everywhere. So even if we look at this, where did this come into? And there's a reason as to why it happens. And this here would be the extreme of the leg that broke this demand. Okay, so ideally what we'd be looking for on the 4 hour is either we tap into potentially something in this week, which might be on the 15-minute, or we might need to go a bit lower into this, but we do need to start seeing a pullback. And then if we come up to here on the 15-minute and then we get structure realigning, we could potentially be taking shorts from here. Firstly, we'd be targeting the low that would be set, whether it be here or here. We can't exactly know where the low is going to be, but the low will be where the pullback is initiated. We could take majority of our trade off there, and then we could potentially even hold a runner if you do like to swing trades for a few days or a week, potentially to be going shorter there. So that's all we can do currently on the 4 hour, because so this would have been the range. We can't even draw the bottom of the range because we don't yet know where the low is, because we haven't had that pullback. And if we look at this is the only POI on the 4 hour, as the rest of this is just imbalance. So hopefully on the 15-minute we might get a bit more structure. Not really. That's okay. So let's just have a look at these POIs here. Again, what do we need to see? We need to see if this has actually interacted with anything. So we have an inside bar here. It hasn't quite come all the way up into here, but we could see, yeah, so what it most likely was is this, which did interact. If we really zoom in, you can see there are buy to sell wicks here. Price coming to that, perfect. I haven't actually looked at US30 since the last time I've done an outlook on it, but it is a pair that I know a lot of people trade, and there's a lot of nice volatility with it. So I will actually be adding it to the list of my weekly outlooks. And on that point, please guys, at the end of this video, please just leave a comment below as to which pairs in particular you'd want me to cover. If I don't get enough sort of comments that tell me which pairs most people would want, I am just going to stick to AU, EU, GU, and US30. But if there is another pair and there's enough sort of interest in me doing an outlook for them, I will also add it to the list. So we can see here there was interaction, prices pushed down. There would have been a liquidity sweep here on the lower time frames too. And this would be a demand. So prices interacted with that. And this is essentially a flip zone. Even here on the lower time frame, there'd be a sweep. Okay, and then we can refine it to this candle, which was engulfed, and it was the final candle before we saw the demand failing. So this here would have been a demand fail. This here was the boss. And again, on the 15-minute, we haven't yet seen that pullback, so we can't really identify where our 15-minute low is. How many pips is this? It's only 9 pips. That's not really enough at all. So our 15-minute boss would actually be all the way back up here. Meaning that the 4-hour high would also be our 15-minute high. And we'd need to see that pullback to confirm where the 15-minute low is. So ideally we'd see maybe a sweep of this whole POI, and then maybe a retracement to this zone to continue lower. Or we could see a deeper mitigation first into this POI, then we can be actually taking longs at this point. They are going to be counter trend, and there's going to be specific rules for those types of moves, which will be again explained to all the members in the course. But then if we do come all the way back up to this zone, which was the 4-hour POI, then this would be a great place to then take continuation shorts to target the daily low below. So that's my outlook for US30. Please do let me know below if you've enjoyed these, if they've made sense, if there's anything that you want some more clarity on. I'm going to be looking to do an outlook every week, and I will be also doing an educational piece here and there. But just because the course is going to be live as of Thursday and my attention will be on the members, I won't promise that it's going to be as in depth as everything that I've been doing in the past. I will do my best still to do so, but I do also have to respect that the members who are paying, they should be taking my attention and not the free videos I'm doing for YouTube. I do thoroughly enjoy these, and they will be more vlogs and everything else, especially more pieces on the self-mastery concepts. But yeah, I will be doing those educational pieces, just not as often. If you are interested in joining the course, there's 11 spots left on the early bird 50, and then prices will be going up again. So please do get in. The link to join will be below, and I hope you have an amazing rest of your weekend, and I'll chat to you guys in the next video. Peace.